The Gallagher Premiership run-in is spicy, and yesterday was a very entertaining, very eventful day for the run-in and who's going to end up being the Premiership champions. Let's just take a look at the table for a second. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Who's going to make it into the top four? I'd say Saracens are done now. They just imploded and shot themselves in the foot and handed Bristol, a get out of jail free card. It's really, really cool that in round 18, the final round of the regular season in a fortnight's time, obviously take a break for the Champions Cup final next weekend, but in 2 weeks' time, every single match that takes place, and they're all going to be 3:05 kickoffs in the afternoon on Saturday, every single game has something on it, is important, and will affect who makes the playoffs. So we have got a very fun couple of hours to look forward to in a fortnight. From a pure neutral perspective, round 17 was brilliant to just make drama and jeopardy thrown it into the pot for the final day of the regular season. For some teams more than others, round 17 was either very, very good or an absolute disaster. There are 5 teams left going for 3 spots. Bath are way out ahead, have been for a while, can put their feet up. I mean, 15 points clear, that is just unheard of in the Premiership for one team to be that much better than the next best. And those top two played each other, and it was a chasm between the two teams in the end. But for the remaining spots, Leicester are home and hosed, but 2 spots remain, 4 teams going for them. Who's going to get it? Well, let's look back at yesterday. And like I say, Bath just are head and shoulders above any other team. They smashed Leicester Tigers in the second half. 43-15 is how it finished. Bearing in mind this could have been a Premiership final, this just shows the gap between the two teams. It was 19-15 at half-time. The second half, however, 24-0 to Bath. They're obviously better at home, and Leicester would be better if it was at Welford Road, and maybe a neutral ground, it would be different, but you just cannot live with the constant heat that Bath bring. For example, and maybe the best example of them all, Thomas Dutoy, starting tight head prop, and then you bring British and Irish Lion Will Stewart off the bench. No place for Wales international Archie Griffin in the matchday squad. It's just nuts. Sam Underhill goes and empties the tank. Guy Pepper, one of the bright, promising back rowers in England, comes on. Cam Redpath in the midfield, and you've got Max Ajomo as backup on the bench. Bath are coached well. They've got great support, but cash is king. And we are seeing that with Bath. They're maxing out on the salary cap, on the marquee players, on every available bit of money. Bruce Craig is piling it onto the field in the rugby team in a way that few of the Premiership teams are. And you can see the difference. And yeah, that is the difference generally between the Premiership and other leagues, and the URC specifically, is that the salary cap exists and that equalises things a lot more. But when one team is spending right as much as they can and other teams are spending below the salary cap, you see the gaps start to emerge. Another difference between the Premiership and the URC that we saw yesterday, referees. I still maintain Premiership have the best referees in the world. And I think we saw the feel that the English referees have for the game with the Ollie Chesham yellow card. His season could have been over if he'd have been given a red card for a headshot, in a way that Damien Willemse was given a red card for the Stormers for a headshot. And there is just this kind of... It's the way it's interpreted and it's the way it's managed, but there's a little bit more empathy from the referees in the Premiership. They're looking for ways to mitigate down to a yellow where they can. When it's clumsy, rather than, really reckless or deliberate, then the referees are looking for opportunities to give yellow cards, and that might have just saved Ollie Chesham's Premiership season. Damien Willemse, we'll wait and see for the suspension, but he may well miss the rest of the season as a result. Big consequences for clumsy acts. For Leicester's point of view, I will say Ollie Hassel-Collins and Adam Radwan, potential tourists with England in the summer. They've both been very good. I think Leicester have to win this season. They've got Andre Pollard. They've got Julien Montoya. They have to win now. They're going to lose some big players, and I think it will get harder next year. But there we go. Saints against Saracens. What a game. What a finish. Saracens absolutely blew it. They have just, and their faces at the end, they knew it. They have just, we can talk about the end of the match, actually, and the decision there. Well, I'll get onto that shortly. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. Saracens let a 24-7 lead slip. And that is just unforgivable. A last play of the match winner, great try from Tariq Hafar, brilliant nerve from Saints, implosion by Saracens, lots and lots to talk about. Should the try at the end have stood? I'll get onto that. But I think we saw in this game how and why Leicester lost their Champions Cup semi-final, because they were going into that game against Northampton in the semi-final thinking about the games ahead. Even if it was only in the back of their mind, they weren't completely focused on that 80 minutes in that moment. They kind of, and people have talked about the arrogance, or they assumed that they were going to win somehow. We saw that a little bit. Well, I think we saw how Leinster lost that game with how Saints were in this game, because Saints put out their best team to start. Pollock looked quiet. Some of their big name players were not playing to the level you normally expect them. Saracens were winning the physical collision battles. They looked like they had more energy. And that's because, just like Saints had more energy than Leinster in Dublin, this was all on the line for Saracens, in the way it was all on the line for Saints in Dublin. And Saints took their foot ever so slightly off the gap. And at the top level, the margins, we always hear that phrase, the tiny margins. You only have to take your foot off the gas just a tiny little bit, a couple of percent, and it makes all the difference. And suddenly Bernal, Joan Martin Gonzalez, Tom Willis were absolutely dominating Henry Pollock and co, winning collisions. All the 50-50s were going their way, and they looked like they were cruising to a win. And the bench completely changed it for Northampton. The bench, by the way, which is not stacked with internationals, the bench was, in a lot of cases, a bunch of kids. But it was kids for Saints who were playing to try and get themselves into a Champions Cup final squad. This was their moment. This was their time and opportunity. And the energy that the bench, full of kids for Saints, brought on, put some of the guys that started to shame within the 80 minutes. Conversely, Saracens had a bench that had Theo Dan, Theo McFarland, Andy Christie, international class, and they could not stem the tide. And they, as I say, 24/7 became 28-24. The try at the end, should it have stood? It was clearly a forward pass from Fraser Dingwall to Tariq Hafar. I do not understand on what planet the assistant referee and the referee and the TMO managed to decide from the footage that was not forward. They were looking at the wrong angle for the most part. There was one angle in particular which showed, well, that's forward. Anyway, the reason I'm not bothered about that is, what, as I always say, if you're left blaming a refereeing decision for a result, you haven't worked hard enough. And Saracens had the opportunity to have won. They had control of that. They should have won it. And they were maybe slightly fortunate with a forward pass on one of their tries as well. So these things, that's the other thing I always say. You get one decision going for you. There's other decisions that go against you, and they do even themselves out. And we saw that within the 80 minutes. So Northampton deserved to win. Saracens deserved to lose, because they should have taken care of business. And they will regret that big time. Sale Sharks looked, well, 2 tries in the last 4 minutes as well. Made it look more respectable for Bristol. They dominated. Bristol did Sale Sharks. Absolute beatdown. Now, Sale at home are a very, very serious team. It's very unlikely they'll get another game there. I think they're going to stay in 3rd or 4th position in the table, probably 3rd. But whatever happens now, they have got a bit of mojo going. And in George Ford, they have got someone who is utter class. It always, go back and look at the videos. I've said this countless times. I cannot understand England fans that have written George Ford off, that have said, no, we need to get rid of George Ford and look to the future. I am telling you, come the Rugby World Cup in 2027, George Ford could absolutely be England's starting fly half in that Rugby World Cup. No question in my mind. Not at all. What is he, 31? No age. There's absolutely no age, and his experience is massive. Now, Finn Smith is playing incredible rugby there, and hopefully he keeps improving. But George Ford could absolutely get that England 10 jersey back. And I really, really don't like the way when a player gets into their 30s, by a lot of fans, they just get kind of written off. Oh, we need to get the next young kid in. No, experience is massive. And George Ford is absolute class. So good. Him and Ben Curry were brilliant. Rafi Quirk making up for a poor game last week, scoring a good try. And there's loads of Sale players that are going to go to Argentina on a summer tour, I would imagine. Asher Opoku, Fajor and Bevan Rodd in the front row. Ben Curry, George Ford, Tom Roebuck, Joe Carpenter, maybe Rafi Quirk, and also maybe the centre, Marcy White. He came from Wasps. He's been lurking around, getting some game time, but he now seems to have established that number 12 jersey, and he's looking really good. So definitely Steve Borthwick will be having a look at him. So Sale looking ominously good going into the playoffs. Big final round game for them away at Exeter. As for Gloucester against Newcastle, well, Gloucester beat Newcastle. I didn't watch this. Games involving Newcastle are rarely worth watching. Although, if the rumours are to be believed, that might change. I'll have a video on that coming in the channel very soon. So now we've got a break for the Champions Cup final with the table looking like that. And yes, Harlequins play Exeter today. That game hasn't happened. I'm making this video. That's because that game doesn't really matter except for fans of those two teams. Yeah, so the fixtures. Let me go through what I think will happen. Exeter play Sale, Gloucester Saints, Leicester Newcastle, Bristol Harlequins, Saracens Bath. The really, really cool thing about that is the 4 teams that are going for those 2 spots in the table, or the 5 teams going for the 3 spots, which is Sale, Gloucester, Leicester, Bristol, Saracens, none of them play each other. So every single game has got something on it, which is really cool. Like, from a story point of view, that's fantastic. I think Sale will win away at Exeter. We'll wait and see what Rob Baxter can inspire a change since his head coaches has gone. He's gone back down, grabbed the whistle and got his boots on out on the pitch coaching. What difference can he make? I think Sale will be so motivated. I see them winning with a 5-point victory as well. I see Leicester beating Newcastle comfortably. They're at home. They're up against Newcastle. Maybe Newcastle will get a little emotional boost with some news of a new owner. By that point, we'll wait and see on that. We'll see. I also think that Saracens will beat Bath. Now, the way it works is after this final round of games, they will go straight the following weekend into the playoffs, semi-final, final. So I think Bath will rest up their players in this final round of games. Although, will they? Because you've got the week... Oh, no. Yes, of course, because Bath are in the Challenge Cup final. So yes, Bath are 100% going to rest their players. They've got a Challenge Cup final this week, rest week against Saracens, and then semi-final, and hopefully for them, a final. So a massive few weeks coming up for Bath. This will be when they, rest up. That said, they've got a really good squad, so they'll still be competitive, which is why I've gone for a 4-point win, not a 5-point win for Saracens. Although I think whether it's 4 or 5 points will be largely irrelevant for Saracens, because the way this will leave it is Saracens will be, if these were the results, they would be in the top 4, with Gloucester and Bristol needing to win to get above them. Gloucester playing Saints. Saints, basically, their players are going to be mentally on the beach. They'll have had their Champions Cup final. If they win that, they'll have been on it for a whole week. And, I mean, they might just put the academy lads out just because everyone's going to be so mashed. They're also away from home. There's been a real focus in the Premiership that people put their best teams out at home because you'd only have 9 home games and your fans pay their season tickets. So you have to give them the best players in the home games. It's got a little bit like France in that respect. So I think Northampton will absolutely change up their team. Gloucester at home in front of the shed, motivated. They will get the win, which will mean it goes down to Bristol. And I see them beating Harlequins, but I think this is the hardest game to call. And if I had to just pick one match to watch, and I think this will be the way it goes. I haven't seen what TNT Sport are going to do, but I would imagine the main game that they're going to look at and pick and focus on will be Bristol against Harlequins. Because if Bristol win, they will get the 4th spot. I think Sale and Leicester will win to secure 2nd and 3rd. If Bristol win, they get 4th. It's that simple. Harlequins, they're better at home than away from home, but they're going to be motivated. They've had a poor season and they've got players that want to get on that England tour. Jack Kenningham, Finn Baxter, Alex Dombrandt, Will Porter, Marcus Smith, Ben Waghorn, Oscar Beard, Caden Murley. They've got good players and they will want to go out there and show what they're about. And the matchup between these two teams, Bristol like to play it loose and that plays into Harlequins' hands. So this would be the one game I would watch. There's also the, as the Quins fans call it, the legend of Bristanbul. Just like when Liverpool came back in the Champions League final from 3-0 down, the Harlequins were down and out, 24-0 down? And then managed to win the game in one of the most incredible matches we've ever seen in a Premiership semi-final. They've got the memory of that. So this could be personal and it could be lots and lots of fun. I'd probably just see Bristol edging it, but I could absolutely see Quins winning that one. It's going to be fun. If that all pans out like that, and I've only done the points for the top 6 teams, it's going to be Saracens and Gloucester missing out. Bristol sneaking in behind Sale and Leicester, and semi-finals, Bath against Bristol, West Country rivalry. That's going to be spicy. And Leicester against Sale, 2 meaty physical packs. And whoever comes through that semi-final will be equipped to have a crack at Twickenham, probably against Bath. It's going to be good. It's going to be really, really good fun. Saracens, when they reflect on the fact that, look at that table now, and had they turned that defeat into a victory, they would be up there ahead of Bristol, albeit they would be ahead of Bristol on points difference, would they? Because they got 1 point, and they would have got 5. They'd be 4 points better off. They'd be 1 point. They'd be level with Sale Sharks. With Saracens, they'd be in 4th spot, and they might have just blown it. But what fun the Premiership is building into in this crescendo of the season. I love this. The sun's shining, great rugby on show, massive, meaningful matches. Sometimes in the middle of the season, the Premiership's felt a bit stodgy and don't really care about who wins this game, and the teams don't seem to care. Look at the teams they're putting out, mismatches on the scoreboards. Round 18 is going to be proper fun, so bring it on.